Hey guys, welcome to the MMA Breakdown. This is my prediction video for UFC 178, Johnson versus Cariaso. I am filming this, it's Friday afternoon, and I really try to get these things out about a week out from the fights. And for those of you who regularly watch my videos and you guys who regularly comment, I really appreciate it if you're watching this, and just know that if you're looking for my videos and they're not out within a couple days of the fight, please don't give up on me. Even if it's just the day or the night before the fight, I'm really gonna try to have those prediction videos out, and I will have prediction videos for the doubleheader next weekend. Stockholm and I think Halifax is the other one. McDonald and Safadine. I also have a recap video for the Bigfoot Arlovsky card, which I never got around to uploading, and I'll try to have a recap for the Japan card. Just wanted to get those things out of the way, but thank you for watching, guys, and I'm really going to try to be more timely making these videos in the future. But UFC 178, just kind of that could be a real threat, a real problem for Zingano. I don't really know if Zingano can. I find it hard to believe, just the layoff, ring rust. I think that's really going to play a role, and I don't know if she'll be ready after that long time off to just get in a firefight right from the outset, and that's what Nunes will try to do. Again, I don't know much about their fights, their fighting styles. I think on the feet, Zingano might have the advantage, and if it goes late or even into the second round, I think Zingano might have the advantage. But I think Nunes is going to go after her early, and I'm going to go with Nunes just based on how dominant she's been and on Zingano's layoff. I'm going to go with Nunes. Not a popular pick, not very logical, but that's what I'm feeling. And next up at middleweight, another great matchup. Like I said, I think that if that Jones Cormier fight would have stayed on here, this is easily top 3 pay-per-views in UFC history. Tim Kennedy taking on Yoel Romero, great matchup. And another one that I think is pretty competitive, but I have to go with Yoel Romero. Tim Kennedy, kind of a Chael Sonnen type fighter, just very persistent with his wrestling, always threatening with that wrestling against Michael Bisping. You saw when he was in on a single, when Bisping was against the cage and he couldn't get it, he dropped to his knees and was tugging at Bisping's ankle, still trying to complete the takedown. Just a very a real pest, just a persistent fighter, real gritty, kind of like Chael Sonnen, if I didn't say that already. But it's the striking where I think Romero is really going to win this fight. Tim Kennedy is not a technical striker at all, really just kind of throws bombs, and it's really just to set up the takedown. Does not have a clean, even a clean jab cross. You saw against Bisping, he would he just buries his head in his chest and throws big overhands, and immediately transitions to the takedown. He did knock out Rafael Natal, so he does have some power, and did that with a big looping hook. It seemed to be really well placed. But Yoel Romero, I think, is just the much more technical and striker, and the guy who's just got more tricks up his sleeves. Against Brad Tavares, he landed a real nice elbow where he just kind of had his arm stuck out to measure distance and just brought it back to land the elbow, and stuff like that. Had that flying knee knockout, executed it very cleanly against Clifford Starks in his debut. And the grappling, I think, will be interesting. I was a real fan of Kennedy's win over Hodger Gracie. And being able to after having his back taken early, was able to out grapple Gracie on the ground. But Kennedy was out grappled by Luke Rockhold, so he can be out grappled. And I think Romero with his his wrestling hasn't looked. He's been taken down, but he hasn't been out wrestled for the duration of a fight. And I think he can get some takedowns on Kennedy. I really think Romero's just more dangerous. So I have to go with Romero here. I think he hurts Kennedy on the feet. I don't think he quite finishes him. I think he wins a decision. Moving on to featherweight, another just fantastic matchup, and this is absolutely the right fight for Conor McGregor. After his last win, this is perfect. I mean, if he can beat Poirier, he's right there. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight for the title, although there are other guys ahead of him. Cub Swanson, Frankie Edgar, but I think Poirier's a big step up from Brandao, but this is the fight to really prove if McGregor's ready for those for the title, to contend for the title. And a fight where I've been back and forth on, and I think it's just real close, and I don't quite know who to pick. I'm not confident in either guy, but I'm going to go with Poirier. He's had the longer resume. Obviously, he's had way more fights in the UFC. Has wins over more experienced guys than Conor McGregor does. But I don't know if you can quite say that Poirier has a win over a guy who's clearly better than the guys that McGregor's faced. Eric Koch, a guy who was going to contend for the title at one point, had a very competitive fight with Cub Swanson that went the distance, and that's when Swanson was just tearing through people. And he didn't come close to knocking out Poirier at all. That was a competitive fight. Both McGregor and Poirier have wins over Max Holloway and Brandao. Poirier was able to finish Max Holloway in the first round. Holloway went the distance with McGregor. I mean, take that for what it's worth. I don't know if that's all that telling. And their fights against Brandao, I thought for the most part pretty much looked the same. Both of them getting first round knockouts over Brandao in a brawl type fight. Dustin Poirier, though, his last fight against Akira Corisani, did get caught. He took on a guy that was unranked and really I didn't think deserved to be in there with him, and got caught. And McGregor, very dominant on the feet, took out Brimage real easily. Shut down Max Holloway, who I think is criminally underrated in the UFC, even still today. A very talented and dangerous striker. And McGregor, with his karate-style stance and unorthodox striking, was able to just completely shut down Holloway's striking game. And then, obviously, against Brandao, hurt him and took him out in the first round. McGregor, unorthodox striking, whereas Poirier's just more kind of basic, although Poirier does have power. Knocked out Corisani with an uppercut. But getting in a firefight, if Poirier does that, I think that's going to be real bad for him. I think that would be a pretty easy path to victory for McGregor. But I think Poirier's smarter than that, and he's won in other ways. He's got a real good Darce choke. He's got a nasty submission game. He got Pablo Garza and Jonathan Brookins with that Darce choke. Almost had it on Eric Koch. And then when he fought Max Holloway in Holloway's debut, Holloway was getting the better of him on the feet, and Poirier just took him down and immediately got him in that mounted triangle armbar. So he's real crafty and dangerous on the ground. And until McGregor can, do something else than just knock out, a mid to lower level fighter in the UFC, unless he can win in a different kind of way, or until he actually beats, a more talented elite fighter. I have to go with Poirier. I think he's smart enough to not just get in a firefight with McGregor. I think he can use his wrestling, his grappling, his other tools to win. I think he can be patient on the feet. But McGregor absolutely has all the skills and all of the power and craft in his striking game to catch Poirier and take him out. Real close fight, but I'm going to go with Poirier just based on the other skills we've seen from him and his resume. So I'm going with Poirier, and I think he wins a decision. If he finishes him, I think it'll be. If he finishes McGregor, I think it'll be late. But I think it's going to win by a decision. And if McGregor wins, I think it's going to be first round or early second. And moving on to the co-main event, lightweight fight, Donald the Cowboy Cerrone taking on Eddie Alvarez. Another just fantastic fight. Great matchmaking. When this card when the pay-per-view portion of this card originally materialized, with Cormier and Jones at the top, Cerrone wasn't even on this card. I think it was Cruz and Mitsugaki that was on the main card, and they were talking about Cerrone versus Nurmagomedov. And but anyway, my point is that back then, even without Cerrone, I thought this was just an incredible card, and still with now putting even with Jones and Cormier off the card, putting Cerrone and Alvarez. And if that Jones fight could have remained on here, again, just would have been an incredibly stacked card. But anyway, Cerrone taking on Alvarez. Everyone seems to just be certain that Cerrone's going to win here, and I'm not that sold. I think his win streak has been incredible. He's turned into a knockout artist. Really using those kicks very well. He used that front kick beautifully against Jim Miller to keep him at distance, and then landed the head kick to put him out. Also knocked out Martins with that head kick. That's also what he dropped Dennis Seaver with before submitting him a couple of years ago. But Cerrone, I think, has just been on a real roll. But if you look at where Cerrone's had trouble, his loss to Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, even Edson Barboza in the early moments of that fight, guys who can press him, get in his face, not give him that space and that distance to use his rangy striking, to use those kicks and his Muay Thai, and that's exactly Alvarez's style. And again, I'm not an expert on Alvarez. I think the only fight I've seen of his was his fight last year with Michael Chandler, and then I think I watched the first fight with Chandler after the fact. But Alvarez is hittable. He did take a lot of punishment against Chandler, but being the smaller guy here, the shorter guy than Cerrone, and Jim Miller, as good as a fighter as he is, I don't. He's not at all. Eddie Alvarez doesn't have the offensive forward pressure or boxing ability that Alvarez does, and also Cerrone. All the fights he's had this year. This is his 5th fight, I think, this calendar year. Or his 3rd fight, I think. Or this is his 4th fight. But that's a lot of fights in 1 year. Alvarez hasn't fought in the year, and before that he had that really long layoff. But that could come back to bite him. And if you remember the Nate Diaz fight, Greg Jackson was talking about how 5 fights in a year is just too much, and that was another year where Cerrone had a lot of fights. But I think Alvarez is just going to give him a different look than he's seen recently with that forward pressure, that aggressive boxing. And Alvarez, I think, might even be able to take him down as great as Cerrone's been on the feet. When's the last time he had to worry about a real strong wrestler taking him down? Rafael dos Anjos might have taken him down. I don't remember, but really hasn't faced a wrestler in forever. I think the last guy to out wrestle him was Jamie Varner. Even there were times when Cerrone was pressed and was able to get the knockout, like against Melvin Gillard. Showed good composure, recovered well, also against Edson Barboza, but. It's just kind of a feeling I have, and I got to go with Alvarez here. I know it's not the popular pick, but I think Alvarez is a much more talented striker than Miller, and some of these other guys that Cerrone's fought. I'm going with Alvarez to win the decision, but very competitive fight. Cerrone's on an incredible roll, and would not surprise me if he caught Alvarez. Would surprise me if he won a decision against Alvarez, though. But moving on to flyweight, like I said, just not excited for this fight really at all. And honestly, kind of weird saying it, but I think if you just took that fight off this card completely, I think it would just be a better card. I mean, this card's really all about the undercard, everything below the main event. Even the prelim, Dominic Cruz and Mitsugaki. But Chris Cariaso is just not... He's not a contender, at least by his resume. There's just no reason to think that. I mean, he's on a 3-fight win streak at flyweight, but I think people are forgetting, before that, he had 2 losses at flyweight, getting finished by John Moraga and getting badly out-wrestled and out-grappled by Jussier Formiga. Had a finish against Iliardi Santos, although Cariaso nearly got finished himself early in that fight. Against Danny Martinez, Cariaso just looked really slow at a big speed disadvantage. Martinez was able to shoot him for that takedown and press him up against the cage. Any opportunity that Cariaso, any chance he had to fight on the feet, fight a kickboxing fight, Martinez was just able to press him up against the cage. And then against Louis Smolka, who I thought looked great against Oskilic. That was a good win for Cariaso, but I mean that's against a prospect. Nothing he's done in the UFC proves that he's a contender or even an elite fighter who can challenge a guy like Mighty Mouse. I will say Cariaso, I think he... I don't know. I mean, he's a decent kickboxer. You saw that against Smolka when he can close distance and fighting close. He's a talented kickboxer. But when he was at bantamweight, a lot of his fights were just kind of not very dominant decision wins. You know, I think he said in the countdown or something that he has better jiu-jitsu or something than Mighty Mouse. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I saw his fight against Michael McDonald back UFC 130, and he was stuck in a triangle for like almost the whole round in one of those rounds in that fight. Against Von Lee, a guy who this hasn't turned out to be very good. That was a pretty back and forth fight, and had to use wrestling and grappling to beat Von Lee. Should not have beaten Takeya Mitsugaki. That's the consensus. Everyone knows that was a robbery. And even against Josh Ferguson, just kind of a washout, a nobody from The Ultimate Fighter 15, and never, lost his fight in the house and then never fought again after that fight against Cariaso. I even thought Ferguson looked a lot better than Cariaso in that fight. Had his back on the feet, was working a rear naked choke. I remember these things. I've seen a lot of fights over the years, and Cariaso's just never is just a guy working his way up through the prelims at bantamweight. Has a couple of wins at flyweight now after a losing streak there. He couldn't beat Formiga, couldn't beat John Moraga. He's not going to beat Demetrius Johnson. I haven't even talked about Demetrius Johnson. I don't think I really have to. Obviously, his stand-up game is just... He's becoming a technical machine. He's developing a real good Thai clinch. You saw that against Bagotinov in his last fight. And then just out of nowhere knocked out Joseph Benavidez, where I thought Johnson was just becoming like one of these GSP type guys who's just extremely dominant, but will never get the finish. And he just knocked out Benavidez, one-punch knockout, very impressive. But we didn't see that power against Bagotinov, so I don't really know if Johnson's going to finish Cariaso here. But I think he's just going to have a huge speed advantage. I think on the feet he's just going to have much more variety of strikes. And wrestling, I think he'll out-wrestle Cariaso all day. And I think it'll really just be domination. I think there's a chance for a late finish. I've been hearing some people say, they think Johnson's going to finish early, and I don't know. Johnson's gone to the distance one too many times at flyweight. But Cariaso, I really don't think will be competitive at all. So he could very well finish him. But I'm taking Johnson, and I think he wins this one easily. Alright guys, so those are my predictions for UFC 178, Johnson versus Cariaso. Again, if you're watching this video this late, this soon before the fight, really appreciate it. I'll try to have my picks up very soon for both the McDonald versus Safadine and the Gunnar Nelson Rick Story fight, those cards next weekend. I'll try to have a recap for this. I will try to have a recap for the Japan card, and I will for sure be uploading my recap for Bigfoot Arlovsky, even though that's a couple weeks old. But if you're interested in that, that will be up. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please like the video, comment, subscribe. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.